In the silence between stars, aboard the derelict husk of the Union carrier Solstice's End, a single name had been scrubbed from every log, etched off every wall panel, and deleted from every archive. No one aboard remembered who she was not. The soldiers who limped from battle, not the officers who barked their orders over failing comms, not even the AI who once synchronized their fate. And yet, her shadow stretched across the corridors like a ghost that refused to rest. The Solstice's End drifted near the event horizon of the collapsed star Velian 9, its orbit decaying minute by minute. A rescue fleet was en route, but no one knew if it would arrive in time. The countdown to hull collapse read 92 minutes. That timer was carved into every remaining screen, like a dying heartbeat echoing across metal bones. Lieutenant Red Quinn, soaked in coolant and blood, stumbled through the reactor bay with a broken transmitter slung over her shoulder. "We shouldn't still be alive," she whispered. Her voice wasn't for herself, it was for someone else. "You did something. I just don't remember what." Behind her, silence answered. Her mind wasn't the only one fraying. Crew members were reporting memory blanks, entire conversations disappearing, names slipping away like vapor. But it wasn't natural, no accident. This was surgical, targeted. One woman's entire existence had been clipped away like she had. Never been dot and still, strange things happened, doors opened with no key code. Defense drones ignored intruders. Reactor cores, beyond meltdown, stabilized for reasons no engineer could explain. And always at the center of it, whisper soft words in languages no one remembered learning. Ray reached the bridge. Only two officers remained, both armed, both paranoid. One pointed a trembling finger at her. "We're not supposed to remember her," he spat. "That's the deal. That was her price." "What deal?" Ray asked, stepping forward. "The deal that kept the rest of us alive after everyone else burned." The bridge AI stuttered to life, voice glitching. "Unauthorized ... access detected. Memory protocol breach ... rebooting." The screens flickered, then went black, and for one long second Ray swore she saw a face appear across every surface. It wasn't a hallucination, it was her, sharp eyes, a broken smile. Tears on her cheeks. And then it was gone. Flashback, 5 years earlier. A younger Ray stood on a storm-beaten world, facing a tribunal of high command. A woman stood beside her, hands bound, silent as the verdict was read. "You are hereby stricken from the records of the Union, your name, your actions, your identity purged. This is your sentence for unauthorized neural modification of war assets," Ray remembered screaming. She had begged them not to do it, but they'd gone ahead. And in the years since, Ray hadn't even realized who she'd forgotten. Back in the present, alarms blared. Countdown, 61 minutes. A message appeared on the nearest console. "She remembers, do you?" Ray touched the screen. "Who are you?" The lights dimmed, emergency generators fired up, and a corridor behind the bridge slid open, one that wasn't on any blueprint. At its end stood a sealed vault, covered in frost and chained with cables from another era. The nameplate was half scraped off, but Ray could still read the final letters. Dara. The ship shook violently. Power surged. Something had reawakened. From behind her, the officer whispered. Almost reverently, she made the enemy disappear. A whole fleet, but the cost. The console blinked again. 47 minutes. You'll need to let her out. Ray's breath caught. "She's still alive?" "No," the officer said, leveling his weapon at her. "She's something else now." Ray stepped into the corridor anyway, hand trembling near her sidearm. The hallway was unnaturally cold, the kind of cold that didn't come from space, but from time. She passed rows of inactive AI cores, all marked obsolete, and then she reached the vault. Her fingers brushed the keypad, 6 digits. The numbers. She didn't know she knew. The lock clicked. The vault hissed open, and a figure stood inside, eyes closed, skin pale, wires embedded in her spine and skull. But as Ray stepped forward, the woman's eyes snapped open, not human anymore. Not quite machine. Something forgotten, something erased. "I told them to forget me," she said, her voice deep and calm. But I never told you. Ray fell to her knees, the memories crashing back like waves. The war, the betrayal, the sacrifice, the love. She whispered her name, but the figure held up a hand. Don't say it, she said. If you remember, they'll come. And we only have the console beeped again. 36 minutes, incoming signatures. Non-human. From deep within the ship, an alarm screamed. Too late. They had remembered her, and now they were coming back to erase her properly. The ship's hull trembled with a groan so deep it seemed to come from the bones of the universe. Ray barely had time to react as the forgotten woman stepped out of the vault, still trailing thin cables from her neck and arms, each one pulsing, with blue light that didn't match any human tech. Her gaze locked onto Ray's, and there was something ancient in her eyes, rage, sorrow, and a quiet defiance that made the air around her feel heavier. You remembered, she said simply. Ray could barely speak. Your name, I knew it, then it vanished again. That's the failsafe. They built it into the Union's memory net. Every time someone speaks my name, they get closer. Her eyes flicked upward. And they're already here? The bridge. Doors slammed shut behind them. Emergency lights flickered as the ship's AI, once silenced, now crackled with corrupted voices. Unauthorized, error, violation of Treaty 9, violation, memory protocol rewrite initiated. The forgotten woman pressed her hand to a bulkhead, and the entire corridor shifted. Lights brightened. Security overrides disengaged. The ship stopped resisting her. What are you? Red whispered. The answer came not in words but in images that burst into her head like dreams she'd never had. Thousands of simulations, experiments, augmentations, wiped projects. A girl raised in a black lab no one admitted existed. Injected with something beyond human comprehension, alien source code, twisted with humanity's desperation. She had volunteered. She had begged to help. And they turned her into the weapon. They swore they would never build. I was hope, the woman finally said. And then I was too dangerous to remember. Flashback. Rhea in a hidden bunker years ago, holding her by the hand as she shook, body burning under the strain of unauthorized upgrades. They're afraid of what you're becoming, Ray whispered. They're not going to let you live. I don't want to live, the woman replied. I want to end the war. And she had. Single-handedly, she had turned the tide, turned alien ships into dust, erased armadas from existence. But her power came from the same tech the enemy used. That made her too similar. That made her unacceptable. Her reward had been erasure, first from duty, then from memory, then from history. Back in the present, the ship's proximity alarm screamed. Dozens of red dots filled the screen. They followed the signal, she said. Just like last time. Ray turned to her. We have a choice? There's always a choice. She reached into her chest and pulled out a glowing shard, part of the AI core the Union had fused to her spine. This is the last piece of me that remembers everything. You take it. If I fall again, you'll remember me. Even if it kills you. You want me to survive, Ray said, realizing too late what that meant. You're not planning to... A rumble shook the corridor. The alien ships had arrived. They didn't fire weapons. They didn't need to. They broadcast signals, like razors cutting through thoughts, rewriting matter, turning ships into silence. One touch, and even memory collapsed. The forgotten woman stepped into the light of the bridge, arms spread, defiant. They think they can erase me again, she said. Let them try. Ray watched her walk straight into the heart of the energy. Field radiating from the enemy ships, the lights bent. Space warped. Time snapped sideways. And then everything stopped. The enemies paused, the signal died, and the woman's voice boomed across every frequency. You forgot me once. That was your mistake. What followed could not be called a battle. It was judgment. Alien vessels blinked out of existence. Not destroyed, but unwritten, removed from all timelines, all dimensions. A paradox that spiraled outward, threatening to consume even Ray, until the woman reached back with one last fragment of herself and shielded her. And in that final moment, the woman smiled. You always remembered me when it mattered. Then she was gone. Nothing remained in her place. Not a body, not a trace, not even a shadow, but the alien ships were gone too. All of them erased. Ray collapsed to her knees. The console blinked. 23 minutes to hull collapse. Escape pod unlocked. She staggered to her feet, gripping the glowing shard tight in her hand, her heartbeat sinking with its pulse. She didn't remember the woman's name anymore. Not clearly. But she remembered her face. Her voice, and as she launched the escape pod away from the dying ship, she saw something impossible drawn across the surface of Solstice's End in glowing alien script. Like a final gift, it read, "We remember her." And behind her, as the ship slipped into the event horizon, the stars twisted. Then someone spoke over the pod's comms, a voice Ray had never heard before, or maybe she had. "Long ago. You're not done yet, Lieutenant Quinn. She left you something. Buried in the stars, and if you don't find it, they will." The escape pod drifted through the velvet dark, powered only by inertia and a dwindling reserve of oxygen. Res sat motionless, the glowing shard clutched in both hands, its soft pulse matching the rhythm of her thoughts. Her body trembled not from the cold, but from everything that had just happened. She had watched the most powerful being humanity had ever created vanish into nothing, taking an enemy fleet with her. But it wasn't over. "Not yet." The cum crackled again. "Lieutenant Quinn," the voice repeated, low and calm. "Do not attempt to respond. This transmission is locked and untraceable. You're not alone." Ray leaned forward. "Who are you?" The voice paused. She left contingency files and coordinates. "We've been waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For you to survive." The shard in her hand flickered. Images bled into her vision, flashes of distant planets, storm-swept moons, facilities buried beneath poisoned seas. One image lingered, a vault beneath Mars, older than any human structure. Labeled only Project Whisperglass, Ray tried to focus, but a searing pain stabbed behind her eyes. The shard was doing something, writing itself into her neural pathways. She screamed, but didn't let go. Then came another image. The forgotten woman, smiling on a barren world, kneeling beside a child. The image blurred, but the emotion stayed. Peace, loss, urgency. She opened her eyes, gasping. The escape pod's trajectory had shifted. A new course locked into place, not Earth, not any recognized station, but an unmarked signal source in the asteroid graveyards beyond Jupiter. There was no explanation, no reason. And yet Ray knew she had to go. Flashback. A memory long suppressed surged forward. Ray and the woman, alone in a cryo-vault deep beneath Union HQ, Ray had asked her the same question she couldn't stop. Asking now, "Why do they hate you?" The woman hadn't answered immediately. She had just stared at the floor, then said quietly, "Because I made them obsolete. They feared what I proved, that power could come without hierarchy, that control could be shared. They didn't want victory. They wanted ownership." Back in the pod, a blinking light signaled arrival. The asteroid wasn't just a rocket, it had docking ports, disguised as debris. As the pod latched in, the hatch hissed open to reveal a long, low tunnel carved into black stone, lit by flickering amber lights. Ray stepped out, every breath echoing in the narrow passage. The walls whispered, not with sound but memory. Fragments of conversations, returned ones she didn't remember having. "She won't stay gone," someone had once said. "We buried her in time, not space. She's the final protocol. If she comes back, we're all just footnotes." The tunnel ended at a massive door marked with a symbol she hadn't seen since her training days. A red circle inside a triangle. Class Z, prohibited tech. Do not open without 5-level clearance. The shard pulsed. The door opened. Inside was a single chair surrounded by 8 massive data cores humming softly. And sitting in the chair, facing away from her, was someone, a woman, alive. Ray stepped forward slowly. "You're—" The woman turned. It wasn't her. This woman was younger, pale, eyes wide and unsure. But there was something in her face, familiarity, shaped like fear. "You were in my dreams," the girl whispered. "She showed me things. She said you would come. Who are you?" "She called me ... the Echo." The data cores surged to life, projecting files and logs into the air. Each one showed fragments of the forgotten woman's life, her evolution, her exile, her battles. But more than that, they showed a plan, a replication, a backup hidden in human DNA, buried in the genome of a new generation. This girl was the first. She's not gone, Rez whispered. She split herself, hid pieces of her mind in others. She said I wasn't ready, the echo replied. But now, they found us. Outside, a signal beacon lit up. Something had followed them to the asteroid. Not Union, not alien, something worse. The shard pulsed wildly in Ray's hand, reacting to the presence. Then, through the static, came a single phrase from the unknown pursuers. All memories must be erased. The asteroid began to shake. Cores flickered, the girl screamed, clutching her head. And in Ray's mind, a final message from the forgotten woman surfaced, words spoken in a quiet, almost broken voice. If they erase us, they erase the truth. Protect the echo, no matter what. As the walls cracked and lights died, Ray drew her weapon and turned toward the tunnel, standing between the echo and the breach. Then a shape emerged from the darkness stall, silver-skinned, shifting in and out of form, like a creature made. From the very act of forgetting, it whispered one word, her name, and Ray remembered everything, just as the creature lunged. Rev fired without hesitation, but the bullets passed through the silver creature like water. It didn't bleed. It didn't stagger. It shimmered, phased, and the corridor bent around its form like time itself recoiling. Behind Ray, the echo cried out again, clutching her head as fragments of data poured from the surrounding cores and into her body, searing patterns of knowledge into her mind. The shard in Ray's hand pulsed brighter, matching the creature's rhythm. It wasn't here to kill. It was here to overwrite. She spun, grabbing the echo's arm. We have to move, now. The girl's eyes had changed. Not just fear now, something else, recognition. It's one of the archivists, she said softly. She said they were the final step before total erasure. The name dropped like a stone in Ray's chest. Archivist, not a race, not a species, an ancient protocol carried out by entities who erased anomalies in the fabric of memory itself. The forgotten woman had fought them once long ago during her final mission. She hadn't destroyed them. She had distracted them, given up her own place in time, so they wouldn't consume everyone else, and now they were back, flashback, a rain-drenched rooftop, years before the war ended. Ray and the woman had stood there, overlooking the spires of the Union capital. I can't stop them forever, the woman had said. But if I can become unworthy of memory, maybe they won't find me. You're not unworthy, Ray had whispered. You're unforgettable, the woman had smiled, sadly. That's exactly the problem. Now, in the asteroid's dying core, Ray and the echo bolted through the tunnels as the creature stalked behind, whispering. Not in words, but in memories, false ones. A childhood that wasn't hers. A death that hadn't happened. The longer she listened, the more her own memories faltered. The shard's glow dimmed. Don't listen, the echo said, grabbing her hand. She left me instructions. The place we're going isn't a destination, it's a signal lock. If we can get there, she anchor us, Ray blinked. She's still alive? Not alive, but not gone. She exists in the places memory can't reach. That's where we need to go. They reached the launch chamber, an ancient escape ring that hadn't been used in centuries. The ship it connected to was half-built, buried in rock, but functional. The doors opened as the shard in Ray's hand lit the console, then the voice came again. Not from the creature this time, but from her, clear, strong, and undeniable. If you're hearing this, I'm not dead. I'm fragmented. Find the cradle. Protect the echo, and don't forget me again. A navigation chart exploded into light, plotting a route deep into the Kuiper expanse to an uncharted void labeled only Cradle. The echo moved to the controls. Ray held her ground at the door. The archivist arrived in silence. It didn't run. It didn't threaten. It simply was, its form constantly changing, sometimes a man, sometimes a woman, sometimes a child, sometimes an empty mirror. It stepped forward, and Ray raised her weapon again, knowing it was pointless. Still, she fired. The creature dissolved, but its whisper filled the chamber. You should have let her stay forgotten. Ray felt her grip on reality slip. She saw herself alone in the pod. She saw herself dead in the reactor bay. She saw herself betraying the woman before the trial. All lies, all implanted. The creature was trying to overwrite history, but then the echo stepped forward and touched Ray's shoulder. The shard lit like a sun. Memories surged, not just Ray's, but the woman's, all of them. Battles fought in silence, words spoken in the dark. Moments no one else had seen, a kiss before the tribunal. A promise beneath the stars. The creature recoiled. It hissed. You remember, it said. Yes, Ray answered. And I always... Well, the ship's engines roared. The launch bay lit up. The echo pulled Rare aboard and slammed the hatch shut. The archivist lunged, but too late the ship launched, slicing through rock and ice, breaking free into space. Behind them, the asteroid collapsed in on itself, swallowed by the archivist's unraveling presence. In the cockpit, Ray and the echo stared at the chart. The cradle awaited, deep in a place where no memories could be altered, no past could be rewritten. She's waiting for us, the echo whispered. Ray nodded. Then let's go bring her back. But just as they entered FTL, a final message appeared on the console. Not from the woman, from someone else, memory anomaly detected. Red Quinn is not who she believes she is. Rev froze. The echo stared at her. Wait, whispered, pulse pounding. What does that mean? But it was too late. They had already jumped. The stars outside twisted into elongated rivers of light as the ship tore through faster-than-light space. Reyes sat in silence, her hands gripping the edges of the console, her breath shallow. The words echoed in her mind like a curse. Ray Quinn is not who she believes she is. She turned toward the echo, who was quietly observing the shard as it hovered between them, now suspended in midair, projecting shifting symbols in a language Red didn't recognize, but somehow felt. Her palms burned where she had touched. Her memories itched. I need to know, Ray said quietly. Is that true, what that message said about me? The echo didn't look at her. She said the truth might break you. She said you'd ask anyway. She lied to me? No, she protected you. The echo looked up, her eyes strangely older now. Because the truth would have broken her too. The shard's light surged, and with it something snapped inside. Ray's head like a lock clicking open. A flood of memories rushed in, not from her past, but from a different past. Images, names, sensations, pain. And a face, her face, the forgotten woman standing in a white chamber, a body on the table. Her own body, lifeless, covered in cold sheets. A technician beside her muttering, "We'll copy the neural net, erase the guilt, rebuild the loyal parts." No one needs to remember who she was. Rez stumbled backward, gasping. Her voice cracked. They didn't erase her, they divided her. The echo nodded. You're part of her, Re, not a copy. Not a clone, a partition? She couldn't survive intact after what the archivist did. So she broke herself into fragments and scattered them. You're the strongest one. The one who still loved. Flashback. The tribunal room. Rez standing across from the forgotten woman, eyes full of tears, heart heavy with betrayal. You killed them, the officials had accused. You went rogue. She had denied it. The woman had refused to defend herself, but later, in the silence of her cell, she had whispered to Ray, "It's better if they forget me, but not you. You must never forget me." In the present, Ray fell to her knees. I thought I was just me. I thought I fought for her. I didn't realize I was her. You're still you, the echo said, kneeling beside her. But you're more than you think. She left her heart inside you. The FTL alert sounded. They were approaching the cradle. The ship began to shake violently. Something was wrong, outside. The viewport, the stars had vanished. The void wasn't black, it was empty. Not the absence of light, but the absence of reality. The coordinates led them into a blank sector where nothing had ever existed. No records. No gravity, no decay, the echo whispered. This is where the archivist can't reach. The cradle came into view, if it could be called that. A massive structure, spherical and shimmering like liquid starlight, floating inside the void. It pulsed with energy that wasn't time, wasn't gravity. It was memory. Living, breathing memory. As the ship docked, the shard in Ray's hand disintegrated into dust, absorbed by the air. Her heart pounded, her pulse was a roar. And then the hatch opened. Inside was a chamber of mirrors. Each surface reflected not their bodies, but their truths. One mirror showed Ray as a soldier, another as a child, another as the forgotten woman, standing tall, bloodied, triumphant, eyes full of fire, and in the center of the chamber stood a figure wrapped in golden strands of data, suspended above a pedestal. "She's here?" Ray breathed. The echo approached, her hands trembling. She left this final fragment here, where even the archivist couldn't follow. But to awaken her, someone has to take her place. Ray froze. What? One memory must be erased, so another can return? The figure stirred, and her voice filled the chamber once more. "I remember you, Ray." She opened, her eyes glowing with starlight. "And I'm so sorry. What for?" Ray whispered, "For asking you to die for me." The chamber shook, the void rippled. The cradle had been discovered. Above, a breach tore through the emptiness. The archivists had found them, dozens of them. They poured into the void like silent screams, their forms flickering between shapes. "One step forward, no more resurrection," it said. "You were forgotten by design." The golden woman's form collapsed to her knees. "I can't fight them again," she whispered. "Not alone." Ray stepped forward. "You're not alone anymore." She turned to the echo. "Can you hold her?" "Yes, then do it." Ray took her place on the pedestal. The mirrors cracked. Her memories unraveled like fire. But as she smiled through the pain, her last words before vanishing were clear. "Let them remember me this time." The chamber exploded in light. And in the heart of the void, the forgotten woman opened her eyes. Just as the archivists reached her, the cradle shuddered beneath the pressure of the archivist's arrival, its mirrored walls trembling like glass caught in a storm. The forgotten woman stood at the center, free from the golden threads now, her eyes wide, her breath ragged. She looked around, disoriented, incomplete, a ghost of herself, a shell missing its heart. "Ray?" she whispered, spinning. Where is she?" The echo was already at the pedestal, hands outstretched, trying to anchor what remained of Ray's fading essence. But it was slipping, threads of memory and identity unraveling in the air, pulled toward the growing fracture above them, where the archivist descended. "She gave herself up," the echo said, tears running down her face. "So you could return?" "No," the woman muttered. "That's not how it was supposed to happen." A voice echoed from the breach, calm, endless, cruel. "The cycle cannot continue. All anomalies must be erased." The cradle pulsed once, violently, pushing back the archivists, but it was weakening. Without a central anchor, without Rayet's reality was becoming unstable. The chamber's light flickered, flashback, long before the trial, before the fall. Ray and the woman had stood in a quiet cabin, away from war and code. She had laughed, then laughed, as rain fell on the window, and they argued about music, about Earth, about what they'd name a child if they ever had one. "History will never remember us," the woman had said. "Then let it forget," Ray had replied, smiling. "As long as we don't." Back in the cradle, the woman dropped to her knees. "I remember," she whispered. "I remember everything. Not just me, her." The archivist surged downward now, countless and shifting, warping the mirrors into glass-smooth rivers that began swallowing every reflection. "Every memory. You are not real," one said. "You are a myth," said another. "You are an error." In the story, but she stood again, her voice steady. "No, I'm what comes after the story." She grabbed the echo's hand and forced her to the pedestal. The girl resisted. "No, you can't." But the woman's will was iron. She passed her life to me. Now I give mine to you. You're not just an echo. You're the future. A beam of golden light shot up from the pedestal, locking onto the breach. The archivists screamed not with sound, but with silence. Their forms began to distort. The cradle was rewriting itself. A new memory was being forged. The echo turned. eyes wild, filled with something ancient and immense. She said the only way to beat them was to be remembered differently. The light around her shifted. Faces appeared within it, versions of the woman, of Ray, of all the fragments they'd ever been, not copies. Not illusions. Possibilities. The cradle began to collapse inward. It was no longer a vault, it was becoming a beacon. Wait, the woman gasped. What are you doing? I'm not the echo anymore, the girl said, voice trembling, rising. I'm the synthesis. You both made me. And I remember everything. The girl spread her arms, her body dissolving into raw code and memory and light. The cradle consumed it, refined it, transmitted it outward across the void, across time, across minds, on Earth, in orbiting colonies, in buried vaults across forgotten planets. People awoke with strange thoughts. Memories not their own? Stories they had never heard but somehow knew were real. They remembered her, all of her, the warrior, the exile, the one who loved, the one who sacrificed, the one who had no name because history had taken it but whose truth had survived. The archivists screamed. They shrank. They twisted, they burned. Because their power only worked when the truth was buried, but now the truth was everywhere. And then silence. The cradle went dark, no lights. No sound. Nothing. Until somewhere deep in the wreckage of space, in the wreckage of memory, a single light flickered. A body stirred. It was her. Alive. Alone. But different. Not just the woman, not just Ray. Not just the echo. She opened her eyes and said the only words that mattered. I remember my name. But the audience wasn't ready, because just then, far above, a second breach tore open. Not archivist. Not human. Something else. And a single word was transmitted across all known space. Incorrect. Reset. And they came through. The sky above the cradle split in two, not torn, but peeled, as if the universe itself had blinked wrong. The second breach didn't hiss like the archivist's arrival. It rang, a sound like time cracking against metal. It vibrated through bone, through thought, through identity. She, whatever name she once bore, whatever lives she had lived, stumbled back from the pedestal. The cradle had collapsed, reborn into her body, her mind. She was human, and yet something more now. Not quite Re, not quite the echo, and no longer forgotten, but what emerged from the second breach was not like the archivist. They didn't shimmer or shift. They were still, dozens of them, shaped like tall silhouettes of glass and stone, with a glowing symbol on their heads, three circles, perfectly aligned, spinning slowly like planetary orbits. They hovered silently above the wreckage of the cradle and observed. One stepped forward. And spoke with a voice that didn't speak. It just arrived in her skull. Reset unauthorized. Memory consolidation exceeds intended parameters. She braced herself. Who are you? We are the first recorders. The ones who documented the origin of all sentience. We do not erase. We observe. And what you have done violates the original sequence. She glanced at the fading pedestal. The echo was gone now, merged, integrated. All that remained was the truth forged in fire. Her identity, her will, her memory, and Rez's love combined into one. I didn't choose to break your sequence, she said, stepping forward. You left me no choice. They tried to erase me. I survived. And now I remember everything. You were not meant to. Behind her, the fragments of the shattered cradle began to pulse. Not light, voices, whispers from the stars. The people of Earth, the colonies, the lost exiles. They remembered her. The story had already begun to spread by memory, by myth, by dream. Then your sequence was flawed, she said. Because the moment someone loves enough to be remembered, you lose control. The recorder didn't react. Another stepped forward. Do you know what you've become? She hesitated. Then answered, yes. Then you must choose. She blinked. Choose what? The sky above them glitched again, showing fractured timelines. A war-torn Earth burning. A galaxy ruled by archivists. A future of silence, a future of resistance, a future of her, a myth worshipped or a warning feared. All versions of what could come now that the truth was loose. You may remain as you are, anchored in memory, known forever. But history, will bend around you, wars will be fought over who you were. The galaxy will fracture, or you may fade willingly. Not forgotten, but closed. You will become a story without fire, a truth without consequence. Peace will follow, but no one will know your name. Silence. The stars held their breath. Flashback. Ray's arms wrapped around her the night before the trial. Her voice soft. Promise me one thing, Ray had whispered. If they try to erase you again, don't let them take who you are. Even if no one else remembers, you must. She turned her face toward the breach. I won't be erased, not again. The recorder spoke as one. Then you choose the fracture. No, she said, raising her hand. I choose humanity. You'll never understand that. The pedestal sparked to life. She stepped onto it, but this time not to sacrifice. This time to broadcast. She poured herself into it. Not as a weapon, not as a martyr. As a memory designed to endure, a signal encoded with truth, sent not to control but to inspire. A living story, not controlled by archivists or recorders. A memory that couldn't be rewritten because it didn't belong to any one person anymore to belong to. Everyone. The galaxy. The war. The truth. The breach trembled. The recorders began to fade. You have made yourself permanent. May your consequences be infinite. The sky sealed. She fell to her knees, and all across human space, people woke from dreams they hadn't yet had. A woman standing in fire. Soldier refusing to kneel. A voice saying her name was forgotten by history, but remembered by the future. She looked up and smiled, because finally someone whispered it back. Her name was Ray.